Have you ever wondered how it is that a narcissist can be full of anger and fury and venom one minute, hurling really hurtful insults towards you and seeming to be absolutely furious, and then maybe just a few minutes later they can be acting as if none of it ever happened, as if everything is fine. They might even seem a little confused as to why you're a little upset or on edge. In today's video, I'm going to talk about why and how it is that narcissists live in the present moment and how the past and the future, in some respects, don't really exist. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. To open this video, I want to paint a picture for you of probably a very uncomfortable scenario, an uncomfortable situations. I'm not saying that this is anything that would or would not happen to you, but just go with me for a minute on this here. If you imagine yourself as somebody that cheated on your partner for whatever reason, you found yourself in a situation where you made those choices and then you were caught cheating on your partner. Try to imagine how you would feel. I think most of us would probably be filled with regret or at least some kind of embarrassment. And I think it would be pretty distressing for most of us, no matter how responsible we are for the decisions we made. It's not fun to be caught doing something like that, right? We'd probably feel like we need to address the issue, either working on separating from the person you're with or working things out with them. We would understand that this is a big deal. It's not okay to cheat on your partner. And if you're caught doing this, you would understand that things need to happen now. We either need to fix this or we need to separate, right? I think that's how most normal people would feel. But as many of us have experienced, when a narcissist cheats on somebody, they downplay it, they deflect any kind of conversation around it. They'll often pretend it didn't happen, even with irrefutable evidence shown to them. Narcissists want to act like something that serious never even happened. That's how they fix problems. They pretend that everything's fine and that they never did anything wrong. And there don't seem to be any lingering feelings of regret or embarrassment or guilt or shame or anything. It really is as if nothing happened. This is really hard to relate to for, quote, normal people, but narcissists truly live in the present moment. It's really hard for them to take accountability for things that are not happening right now. Of course, it's impossible for them to take accountability for things that are happening right now as well, but it's especially difficult for them to take accountability for things that already happened. I mean, they already got whatever it was they got out of that kind of interaction or whatever it was they did. They already got the benefit of it. Why should they be having to pay for it now? It's over. It's in the past. The only thing that a narcissist really ever cares about is how they feel right now. And of course, how they feel can come from a lot of different things. It's usually tied to their ego, but really, that's the only thing they ever care about, is how they feel right now. And I think that a lot of their behavior makes a lot more sense when we remember that one thing. They don't care about anything else other than how they feel right now. They don't care about how you feel right now. They don't care about what's going to happen tomorrow. They don't care about what happened last week. They don't care about how they felt 2 hours ago. They care about how they feel right now. And that's really all that they really have the capacity to worry about or care about. There are two main reasons that narcissists live in the present moment. The first reason is that narcissists live in crisis mode. They really are constantly running away from the reality of how they feel about themselves, and this constant dragging emptiness and this vacuum of boredom that they are always trying to escape. They really live in a sort of panicked mode of constantly trying to cope with how they feel. So when you live in crisis mode, It really is difficult to worry about what happened last week or what happened an hour ago. When you're in crisis mode, you're really focused on right now, and you aren't even thinking about tomorrow, you're thinking about right now. Imagine that you suddenly started having a heart attack. You would be in crisis mode, and if you were in that situation, you would be worried about what you're going to do right now to fix the situation. You might be panicking a little bit, and you wouldn't be worried about maybe some rude thing that you said to your friend an hour ago. And if that same friend that you were rude to an hour ago was right in front of you, you would expect that friend to help you even though you were rude to them an hour ago. You wouldn't be thinking about what happened an hour ago because you're too focused on the current crisis. To a narcissist, everything is always a crisis, everything is always an emergency, and it always revolves around them. So they really expect the whole entire world to drop everything and forget about everything and forgive everything and just live in the present moment with them and just give everything they have to helping the narcissist feel better in the present moment. And it really is amazing the lengths that they go to, or the blindness that they seem to have about the future, not just the past, but the future as well. A narcissist will do something like they might write a bad check, and you have certain evidences that they wrote a bad check out of your account maybe, and you ask them about this and they deny it. And it's funny, in this example I'm giving, this simple example, in the future, you know that eventually this bad check is going to clear your account and you're going to get a copy or a digital copy of this check, and you're going to have tangible evidence that they wrote a bad check. But when narcissists are in this kind of situation, it's like they don't even think about the evidence that's going to surface. They're not thinking about, okay, I'm going to lie to you and I'm going to pretend I never wrote that bad check. But what's going to happen a couple days from now when you get an image of that check and you have evidence that I did it? They're not even thinking about that. And some of them take this to such an extreme that it's really mind-blowing. It's really childish. And that brings me to the second reason that narcissists live in the present moment, and that is that they are like children emotionally in this way. Children also live only in the present moment. Little children are developing whole object relations and object permanency. And these are psychological things that children develop as they grow that help them understand that people still exist when they're not in the same room as them, and situations are still important even if they're not present right now in front of them. These are things that help children start to realize that the world doesn't revolve around them, and that there are things in the world that are happening and existing outside of their immediate awareness. And narcissists have extremely underdeveloped whole object relations and object permanence. They really don't understand certain concepts that we don't even have to think about. They really don't quite grasp the idea that people have lives that are moving around them outside of their immediate awareness, and that relevant things are always happening that don't necessarily have anything to do with them. They really live in an isolated little fantasy world where the present moment is the only thing that really matters. I like to use an example of a little child, a 4 or 5-year-old that has eaten a chocolate chip cookie after his or her mother has told them not to, and they have chocolate all over their face. You know, it's kind of the funny, cute little story that maybe I've already used this example before, but I think it's a good one. So the mother approaches the child and says, "Did you eat the cookie?" And the child, of course, says, "No, I didn't eat the cookie," and there's just chocolate all over the child's face. If we really try to pull ourselves back into that childish mentality, that very young child, we may be able to remember that at that age, we really didn't understand the relevance of the fact that we did eat a cookie, but we ate a cookie like a half hour ago. So when we are sitting there being asked, "Did you eat a cookie?" and we knew that we were not supposed to do that, it just makes sense to deny it as an immature little child, because we're no longer eating a cookie. And the act of eating a cookie in the past Although we do remember doing it, it's like it doesn't exist anymore. We're no longer gaining the benefit of eating that cookie, so why should it matter? A little 4 or 5-year-old really doesn't understand why it matters and why they shouldn't lie about something that they definitely did. Narcissists aren't a whole lot more mature than that. They really don't understand why you should have the right to be upset about something that they did yesterday, that they're not doing right now. If they're not doing it right now, why should it matter? Who do you think you are trying to hold them accountable for something that's not happening? Living in the present moment is also a kind of coping mechanism for narcissists, because if narcissists had to acknowledge and consider the past, they would have to deal with the way that they actually feel about things. They would have to deal with situations. They would have to face reality, and that is something that they really, really don't want to do. Acknowledging the past would mean having to take accountability for things that they actually did. It would mean having to take accountability for things they did in the past that are affecting them today and affecting people around them. They would have to take accountability for ways that they've treated people that caused those people to abandon them or, quote, betray them. To a narcissist, if they only focus on the present moment, then when you finally walk away from them after 5 years of constant emotional torture, they don't have to deal with all the abuse that they put you through. They don't have to consider it. They don't have to acknowledge it. They can pretend it never even happened. And all they have to think about, all they have to focus on is the fact that you're walking out on them. You're betraying them. That's all that's happening right now. So that's all that they have to think about. And that's how they cope with all the terrible things they did to you in the past. They just don't acknowledge it. They just pretend it never happened. And now you're the bad guy because you're walking out on them for no good reason. You're just betraying them after all these years that they've spent with you. If narcissists had to deal with the reality of the past and the reality of what has actually happened, they would have to leave the fantasy world that they live in. This is why their reality is like sand sifting through your fingers, like trying to nail down their stories, trying to nail down even their opinions, or what they think, or what they stand for, or what they've told you they did last year or last month. It just, the stories are constantly morphing and changing. Their stances, their opinions, their values never seem coherent. They're always contradicting themselves because nothing that happened yesterday ever really means anything. Everything in a narcissist's life is written in disappearing ink, and they're constantly writing. They're constantly writing a story that's constantly disappearing as they move along. So this results in behaviors in which they're maybe spending money that they actually need to save for bills, spending it on silly things because all they care about is how they feel right now. They don't care about how they're gonna feel next month when the electricity gets shut off or they get kicked out of their house. This can result in things like blowing off appointments, maybe getting an awesome job interview and then just not going because they just don't feel like it in that moment, or just throwing away opportunities that they really need. Narcissists will also reminisce about things that never happened. Whatever they feel like happened while they're in the present moment right now, they can think up any fantasy about how things were 20 years ago or last month or even yesterday. And that's what they choose to believe happened, even though these things never did, because they're making up their own reality in the present moment, even about things that happened in the past. This is why narcissists will deny making promises or saying things to you or even doing things, and you try to bring these things up like, no, you told me that you would help me with this, or you told me you needed help with this, or you told me that we had dinner plans tonight and we were going to this place, and they act like they don't even know what you're talking about. I never said that. I mean, some of this is intentional gaslighting, and some of it is just like, well, I choose to have a different reality now, so I want to pretend that I never said anything like that, and you don't have the right to hold me accountable for the things I actually said yesterday, because although I felt like saying that or promising that or telling you about that yesterday, well, I don't feel like doing that today, and I don't feel like telling that story today, so it never happened, and stop holding me accountable for the mood that I was in yesterday. And of course, narcissists will destroy relationships that they actually really need. They'll sabotage their own lives, maybe sabotage their careers, getting themselves fired when they really need a job. They will fail to plan ahead. And I think this is interesting. Of the narcissists that I've known in my life, some of them are extremely irresponsible financially. Like, they won't even pay speeding tickets or just utility bills. They almost feel like they're being taken advantage of, that it's not fair that they should have to pay bills. And then some narcissists are financially responsible and they do pay their basic bills. They do meet basic financial obligations. I think one thing that makes a big difference here is their ability. Narcissists that have enough money to comfortably pay for their bills do so because it benefits them. But narcissists that struggle financially tend to be very irresponsible with their decisions, from my experience anyway. They don't seem to be the kind of person that's really going to budget and discipline themselves to make do with what they have, because I think they feel really angry, like it's not fair. They feel like they're entitled to all the money in the world, so if they have to struggle, they shouldn't have to go through the difficult process of trying to budget things when money's really, really tight. And while maybe it's not fair for some people to have to financially struggle while others don't, it's just reality. And narcissists really cannot deal with their reality, especially when their reality reminds them that they're not special and that the universe doesn't revolve around them. They kind of rebel against that reality. So with not planning ahead, some of them will pay their bills, but we could include things like not budgeting, not paying their light bill, not paying their mortgage, and not really thinking about how that's going to affect them next month or the month after that. But for narcissists that are financially responsible, it could be something like not planning for retirement or not paying for health insurance, and just not thinking about how that's going to affect them in the future. And one more example that I kind of lightly touched on a little earlier is how everyone is always the enemy to a narcissist, because narcissists kind of live in Groundhog Day, where over and over again, they destroy these relationships, they push people out of their lives, but every time this happens to them, it's like fresh, it's like new. They never stop to think, wait, this is the 1,000th person that was totally loyal to me, that would do anything for me, that stuck by my side. And then suddenly they completely turned on me and they got away from me, and now they're saying all these awful things about me. This is like the 1,000th time this has happened to me. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. They never really get to that point because they don't think about the 1,000 people that they've screwed over that finally had enough and left. They're only thinking about today. They're only thinking about the one person, maybe it's you, that's now betraying them and leaving them. They're not thinking about why. They're not thinking about all the things they did to you earlier. And they certainly aren't thinking about all the awful things that they've done to all the 1,000 people that have left them before you. It's just all about today. It's just all about how terribly unfair it is that yet another person is betraying them. You're the enemy, you're the bad guy, because that's all that they need to focus on. That's all they need to acknowledge and recognize is what a victim they are. Because if they did anything else, they would have so much to deal with. It's just so much easier to keep living in the present moment. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.